May Allah heal you from whatever pain you are suffering from. May Allah heal you from whatever pain you are suffering from.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله. Dear viewers and listeners of Madani Channel, welcome to another inspiring episode of the Silsila Spiritual Cures. And wherever you are in the world, we are hoping that you and your family are safe and sound. And keep in mind, when you are making dua for yourself, for your family, for your community, then keep the ummah in your duas as well. Because in some part of the world, perhaps in your locality as well, there will be Muslims that are going through many different types of problems. Many difficulties are there, sicknesses are there. Make dua to Almighty Allah Jalla Jalaluhu for the sake of the Holy Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them relief, grants shifa and cure to those who are sick and suffering, and grants protection against oppressors. Well, today we have more calls that are going to be aired, inshallah ta'ala, and keep focused, because perhaps you may be going through the difficulty of the caller. The question that the caller is going to pose, maybe you are going through that problem, or maybe you know somebody that will be experiencing that difficulty. Try to have a notebook or a diary, because as they say, ink is the best memory. And Sayyidina Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu mentions, capture knowledge by writing it down. So the important Madani pearls, the litanies, the wadha'if, the invocations that are going to be shared, try to note them down and use that as a reference book, because perhaps in the future you may be going through that difficulty. You can refer to that book or your diary, and you can start with those wadha'if as well, inshallah azza wa jal. Before we move further onto our calls, let's make some good intentions. That, as the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, niyatul mu'mini khayrum min amalihi. The intention of a believer is better than his action. Let's make the good intentions. Oh Allah azza wa jal, I am listening to the silsila of Madani Channel for your pleasure and happiness, for the pleasure of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What I learned, I will try to practice, or at least I will convey these messages to others as well, especially those who are going through whatever problems that we are going to hear about, inshallah azza wa jal, and their solutions, of course. There are so many wonderful blessings for reciting Salat ala Nabi, Durood Pak, salutations upon the cause of creation, the cream of creation, the crown of creation, the owner of Jannah, the knower of the unseen, our beloved Master sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who recites Salat ala Nabi 1,000 times every day, will not die until he sees his place in Jannah. Subhanallah. So make this also part of your daily routine, to recite a minimum of 313 times Salawat Durood Pak. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Play the first call.
My question is, what help is there for one who is affected by sihr, jadoo, black magic? Jazakallah.
Ameen wa iyyakum. Well, this problem of sihr, jadoo, black magic is prevalent across the globe, in fact. Because, see, the weaker a person's iman is, then the easier spiritual problems like jadoo, like sihr, can affect a person. We must make sure that, number one, our strongest wazifa and ta'weedh is our 5 daily salahs. I need to firstly make sure that is in order, that I'm not just reading my salahs, but I am establishing it, and I'm performing my salahs punctually and properly. That how it's supposed to be offered, that's how I'm reading it. And how the Quran is supposed to be recited, each and every letter must be pronounced properly. So that is a starting point, a question we need to ask ourselves, that am I performing my salahs properly? Number two, am I following the sunnah of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Am I obedient to Almighty Allah Jalla Jalaluhu? Am I obedient to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Am I staying away from those places, those things that can affect me spiritually? Because linked to jadoo are the jinn, effect of the jinn, shaitan. If a person falls in his traps, if a person's iman is weak, then he succumbs to many of the trickeries and traps of shaitan. I'm sure we all heard of Salatul Taj or Durood Taj, something which is very powerful for getting rid of magic, black magic, devils, demons, jinns, whatever you want to call it, and shaitan, the effects of shaitan as well. And subhanallah azza wa jal, if a person recites Durood Taj 11 times and performs dam, meaning blows on the person that is affected, or if the person is not affected, then blows on the person so they get protection against sihr and jadoo, even jinn as well, then inshallah ta'ala, that person will receive protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or if they are suffering because of the effects of jadoo, of sihr, of jinn, then inshallah ta'ala relief will be obtained. I'll show a few more wadhaif inshallah azza wa jal. The following must be recited 7 times every day, and then do dam on yourself, blow on yourself. And you can do so on your family members, your children, etc., for their protection. So recite the following 7 times every day, do dam on yourself. Insha'Allah ta'ala, magic will not affect you. What is to be recited? Very simple, very easy. Ya muhyi, ya mumitu. Ya muhyi, ya mumitu. Ya muhyi, ya mumitu. 7 times. And then do dam on yourself. 1 time Durood Pak before and after. This we must always keep in mind. Any wadhifa, any invocation or litany that we are reciting, if there's no stipulated amount of Durood Pak to recite, then at least 1 time before and after. If there is a stipulation, then go according to that, for it to have the most athar and effect, the proper effect that is desired. Here's another wadhifa. Simple ones, easy ones, even if we can't do all of them, at least do one of them. Start with one, and then once that is established, move to the next one if you can't do all at the same time. The following must be recited 101 times. Then do dam, blow onto the person that is under that magic spell or jadoo and black magic. Or you can write the following on a piece of clean paper. Then put this paper into a cup of water. Make the one who is suffering from the effects of jadoo, of sihr, black magic, to drink this. Insha'Allah ta'ala, that magic will disappear through the will of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So 101 times recite La ilaha illallahu, La ilaha illallahu, La ilaha illallahu. You have an option. Either you can recite this 101 times and then do dam on the person, or you can write this on a clean piece of paper 101 times and put it into some water, give the person to drink this. Inshallah ta'ala, there will be some positive effects and relief as well. Okay, now this next wadhifa is actually something to do. You will need this cotton thread, which is of sky blue color. You need to measure from the head of the patient right to the toe. So like this, you need 11 cotton threads according to the height of the person from head to toe. The color needs to be sky blue. Now, once you're done, cut it off. Fold these 11 threads twice in half. Now make a loose knot on the top of the threads. Then recite Suratul Falaq. Qul a'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq. Recite 1 time, and then blow onto this knot and immediately tie it. Similarly, 11 knots need to be made on this thread, and each time Suratul Falaq must be recited and then immediately blow onto the knot and tie it tight. Thereafter, take some burning coal, or you can do it on your stove, burn this. Put these threads onto some burning coals or onto something to make it burn. You can also burn it on a griddle or any way that it can burn completely. If a person is under a magic spell, then an unpleasant smell will emanate. You will experience this. Do this practice once daily. As long as you are getting that unpleasant smell, then continue to do this every day at least once. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willing, the evil effect and influence of that magic will disappear. Another wazifa, that if somebody is afflicted by jadoo, by sihr, black magic, then they should recite frequently, Ya Allahu, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyumu. Ya Allahu, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyumu. Ya Allahu, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyumu. This must be recited frequently. In fact, this wazifa you can get from a booklet, a very beautiful booklet called Memories of Ramadan. You can obtain this booklet from Maktabatul Madina, which is our publications department and bookshop of Dawud Islami, or you can download the free PDF ebook from dawoodislami.net along with hundreds of other books and booklets which can be downloaded for free. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal, our beloved Master, the beloved Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the last Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal, has mentioned that the ajwa date, that black small kajur, the date that you get, Subhanallah, he says Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the ajwa date is from Jannah, is from heaven. It contains cure for poison. I'm sure there's many other specialities. It is a sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Try to obtain that if possible, and try to have some of that on an empty stomach. Not just poison. Also, it removes magic. According to a narration in Sahih al-Bukhari, if a person eats 7 ajwa dates in the morning, before eating anything else on an empty stomach, then on that day, magic and poison will not be able to harm that person. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. So if it's possible, try to get your hands on some ajwa dates. Try to eat 7 in the morning before you eat anything else. And lastly, one should recite Surah Falaq, Surah Nas on a clean piece of paper, wrap it up, fold it up like an amulet, like a ta'weeth, and give it to the patient to wear on themselves, whether around their neck, around their arm, wherever they're comfortable. This also will also give some relief. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us against all the evils out there, including sihr, black magic, and jadoo. Ameen bijahi khatamin nabiyyin sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Please go ahead and play the next call.
My question is, can you give any wazifa for removing domestic disputes?
Allahu Akbar. This is another major issue that many of our Muslim households are having. Domestic disputes, primarily between husband and wife. And you know, if there are children involved, meaning if there are kids around, then this can have a mental, a psychological effects on their minds. So grown-ups, mother, father, the husband and wife, need to take that into consideration, even above their own interests. That is this in the interest of my child, my behavior, that I'm swearing, I'm screaming, I'm shouting at my spouse, I'm physically assaulting my spouse. The kids are listening. Others are listening. Sometimes you can hear the people from outside the house. What does it say about us then? How did this all begin? We never heard of these types of problems a few decades back. The scholars tell us, the further we drift away from Islamic values, the further we go from the Islamic principles, Islamic teachings, the more closer we get to destroying ourselves and inviting different types of problems into our lives. And this is one of them. I want to bring your attention to something, because we all know Shaitan, one thing that pleases him is when a husband and wife separate. I want you to think about it, that your community, your society is made up of families. Those homes have families. And if you can disrupt the family unit, what's going to happen? You end up disrupting the entire society. There won't be any sukoon. There won't be any tranquility, any peace. There will be people always arguing with each other that can lead to domestic violence, gender violence, doesn't matter which way. Some husbands end up beating their wives, some wives end up beating their husbands, parents end up beating their children, and in some cases, the kids end up beating the parents. So we need to take a step back and analyze our lives. Am I living in accordance to Islamic values? We need to recognize this fact, that the further away I move from Islamic values and teachings, the more problems I'm inviting into my life. That's a reality, that is a fact. And if I don't take the time out to fix that problem, I'm always going to come back to domestic disputes. I'm always going to come back to arguments. Yes, arguments are going to be there because there's going to be differences of opinions. People have different temperaments, different understandings. But to the level where we see today, where we hear today, especially those scholars, those imams that are involved in counseling, I mean, they would tell you that this is not an Islamic environment. This is not known to as a Muslim couple where they are at each other's throats. So Shaitan, he is number one when it comes to trying to create friction between husband and wife. And so immediately you must recognize that this is a trickery of Shaitan. He wants to destroy my marriage. He wants to destroy my relationship with my children. He wants to destroy my household. And if both people are angry at the same time, there's going to be an explosion. When one is angry, the other, it's best just to keep silent. You know the principles, the teachings. When you're angry, then, or if somebody makes you angry, something makes you angry, if you're standing, you must sit down. If you're sitting, if you have the chance, go and lie down. Go drink cool water, make wudu with cold water. So physically cool yourself down. When we enter the home, whether from work, grocery shopping, wherever it is, when we are entering the home, do I recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before entry? If we don't, then we are opening up a door to invite the devil, Shaitan, Iblis, the cursed and humiliated one, to disrupt the harmony in the home. The scholars have mentioned, a person who enters the home but does not recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and enter the home, then a Shaitan enters with that person. What do you think he's there for? He's there to cause disruptions. He's there to cause a friction between the spouses, between the parents and their children, like we see so common today. So make this a habit. Try to remember, try to remind each other that don't forget to recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Recite Durood Pak as well. And then you enter with the right foot. You make salam loudly. If nobody is in the home, you say Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Because as the scholars mentioned, the soul of the Holy Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is present in the homes of the Muslims, of the believers. Subhanallah. And then you recite Surah Ikhlas, Qul huwallahu ahad, one time. that actually has a double benefit. The recitation of Surah Ikhlas when you're entering the home or after entering the home. One is that the home will be protected against domestic disputes. And the other is, if there is domestic disputes, those will be removed. If a person desires and wants blessings in their rizq, in their sustenance, then this also is a good and simple wazifa that we need to practice upon. Very easy. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Before entering, enter with the right foot, make salam loudly, recite Surah Ikhlas, and we should teach this to our children, the next generation as well. You teach them and they practice, you'll also get reward, inshallah ta'ala. There is a request that some psychologists, they advise the couple that is always at loggerheads with each other, always fighting, always arguing, then sit down, peacefully, silently, opposite each other, or next to each other, have a book, a diary. Each have their own, and list down from each side's perspective what problems I feel are there. The husband must write his own, the wife must write her own. And you will come to realize that many of these things we can get rid of. It's insignificant, it's so trivial that we should not concentrate our efforts and our energy on these things. So many things automatically you are going to take out from there, from your list. Focus on the bigger problems. Maybe there's some misunderstandings that can be cleared. Or if there are major serious issues, then now next step, after you list it, next step is, okay, this issue, and tackle one at a time. This problem, what solution do you have? And each must give their solutions, practical, simple solutions that can be implemented as soon as possible. Each give their solutions and say, okay, let's work together to eliminate and remove this problem. And then you move to the next problem and the next problem. Doesn't mean that your life is going to be absolutely problem-free. No, bumps are going to come there. Sometimes the ocean is calm and sometimes there's a storm at sea. But the storm doesn't stay permanently. The storm subsides after some time. So you have to wither out the storm, you have to work together. And especially if you have children, then you got to look at their faces. That, I don't want them to start disrespecting me because I disrespect my spouse. I don't want them to end up swearing and scolding me as I talk to my spouse. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, there are other wadha'if that can be recited. Very easy wadha'if. If your spouse is less affectionate, you want your spouse to become more loving, more compassionate, then every day recite Ya Awwalu, Ya Awwalu, Ya Awwalu 100 times. It'll take you a few minutes only. Ya Awwalu, Ya Awwalu, Ya Awwalu. Pronounce it properly. 100 times every day with Durud Pak once before and after. If your spouse is displeased with you, maybe it is your fault. Or even if it's not, if your spouse is displeased with you, then recite the following 20 times while sitting on the bed before you sleep. It must be done every night. Before you sleep, sit on the bed and recite 20 times. Ya Mani'u, Ya Mu'ti. Ya Mani'u, Ya Mu'ti. Ya Mani'u, Ya Mu'ti. Keep in mind, the Ain, the letter, the sound comes out from the center of the throat. So we must not say Ya Mani'u. That's a Hamza. Ya Mani'u. And Ya Mu'ti with a Ta. Not Mu'ti, Mu'ti. If you want to correct our pronunciations, Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, Dawud Islami has all the facilities, even online. If you visit QuranTeacher.net via Faizan Online Academy, you can enroll in about 30 different courses. And one of them is to do with Madani Qaida. That is the basic level to get used to reciting or to learn how to recite the Quran properly. And that's necessary. Whenever you're reciting the Quran, we're supposed to and we have to recite properly, whether in Salah or out of Salah. And this will have a greater effect and impact. If you want the desired results, then we should do our ibadat correctly. Our recitations should be proper as well. So 20 times whilst sitting on the bed before sleeping every night, Ya Mani'u, Ya Mu'ti. Dawud Islami also has specialized classes for grown-ups, for males, separately for females. And subhanallah azza wa jal, we have free Madrasatul Madina for kids, for teens, free Jamiatul Madina as well. So enroll today to better yourself. Always continue your self-development. You're also requested, for those out there who have domestic problems, get an istikhara checking done. Because it could be there is a spiritual underlying problem. Could be sihr, could be jinn, could be nazar-e-bad. So get an istikhara checking done. Visit your local spiritual cures branch. If you don't have one close by, then go to dawudislami.net or download the free app, Online Ruhani Ilaj and Istikhara. And the facility, the option is there to do your istikhara checking, or if you need ilaj treatments, because the ilaj treatments would normally only be given after it is established what kind of a spiritual problem is there, or if there's no spiritual problem, even then too, ta'widhat al-tariya, ruhani ilaj, spiritual cures and treatments can be given. But every now and then, especially when you feel things are falling apart, then either you can perform the Salatul Istikhara on your own, or take advantage of Dawud Islami's facility. And for the ta'widhat, for the amulets and the ilaj treatments, online you can actually do the ordering. There is a system. You have to fill out an online form, and the brothers that are responsible there will try to get that through to you, inshallah ta'ala. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal, I just want to share one more wazifa with you. Also a very simple one. It won't take you very long, but this is also quite effective. Now the following must be recited 1100 times. 1100 times. The following must be recited, and then you blow onto something edible, something that you eat, and then give this to your spouse to eat. Inshallah ta'ala, both of you will live a life of harmony together. Recite 1100 times, Ya Jalilu, Ya Jalilu, Ya Jalilu. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Please proceed with the next call.
My question is, please advise on invocations for a stubborn child. Jazakallah.
Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Well, I'm just going to share with you, inshallah Azza wa Jal, some wadha'if with regards to bettering ourselves. And look, first of all, one should make good intentions. This is primary. This is the starting point of anything that I want to do, anything I want to achieve. And the first good intention is for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then for the pleasure of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then whatever you're going to do must be done within the framework of the Sharia. Even if when it comes to disciplining your child. Because people, the experts in the field, they mention that if you scold your child too much, they end up becoming more stubborn. And you are not strengthening that relationship between yourself and your child. It's important to know who your child's friend circle is. Because without a shadow of doubt, some influence is going to come from there. All right? And then you have the entertainment industry that promotes the youth out there to be closer to their friends than their parents. This is a norm that they are teaching, that they are propagating. So know who your child's friends are. Continuously, it's not a once-off thing. Continuously, you have to strengthen that relationship with your child. And something for us to keep in mind, as parents, if we are disobedient to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are earning from haram sources, prohibited sources, and with the same money you are buying food to nourish the bodies of your children, you think they won't become disobedient? Do you think they won't become stubborn and rebellious? So I need to look that, am I responsible in any way for the stubbornness, for this rebelliousness and disobedience? And I need to rectify that. Yes, there are some wada'if, some simple wada'if that need to be practiced upon. But firstly, keep that in mind, that I need to be obedient to Almighty Allah and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, both mother and father. And I need to portray this in my character. How we speak to each other. Are we habitual with our salahs, adhkar, durood-e-pak, reciting the Quran? Have I established an Islamic environment? Have I created such a relationship with my child that my child feels confident to confide in me? That I'm the go-to person as the parent. That my child knows if I have any doubts or any concerns, or I don't like a certain thing, maybe somebody's behaving with them in a bad way, or maybe they heard something. So the child, such a relationship must exist that the child must realize, no, my mother, my father, they will advise me the best. But we have to constantly work on strengthening that relationship. All right, so to remove stubbornness from a child, that's your starting point. Good intentions, and then you work on strengthening the relationship. Now your wada'if, your litanies. Recite the following 21 times in the morning before sunrise, with one hand on the forehead of the disobedient child, whilst you are facing towards the sky. Recite, Ya Shaheedu, Ya Shaheedu, Ya Shaheedu. 21 times before sunrise, with one hand on the forehead of the child, facing towards the sky. Insha'Allah ta'ala, the child will become pious to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's many other factors that I mentioned already that goes with that. I can't be doing all the wrong things. I can't be living a life of sin and my child is witnessing all of these things. And I want them to be obedient. I want them to be pious. This idea of do as I say, don't do as I do, it doesn't really work. Because the day that you're not there, they're not going to do it. So we need to inculcate those Islamic values. That's the foundation. Inculcate that, strengthen it from the very beginning. So they grow up in such an environment and it becomes part of their nature. It becomes part of who they are. Another beautiful wadhifa is actually a Quranic dua, which we should make every day, at least one time. Best after every salah. Make the Quranic dua. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Very famous Quranic dua. So this, try to read once a day, best once after every salah. I think we have time for one more call, inshallah.
My question is, what dua can I read to increase my knowledge? Jazakallah.
Ameen wa iyyakum. We all must aim to increase our knowledge. Self-development is something which is continuous, is constant. Our teachers used to tell us that always consider yourself like an empty cup. If a person feels like they are full to the brim, you can't add anything more. So no matter how much you learn, knowledge teaches you to be humble, to know that although I may have learned a lot, but how much more I don't know. If you're studying any book, Islamic book, or for some test or exam, school, college, madrasa, jamia, then before studying, before reading, recite this dua. Insha'Allah ta'ala, you will retain what you learn, what you read, by the will of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Very simple dua. Allahumma ftah alayna hikmataka wanshur alayna rahmataka ya dhal jalali wal ikram. This means, oh Allah, open the door of knowledge and wisdom for us and have mercy on us. O the one who is the most honorable and glorious. You can find this dua, any booklet of Dawud Islami, Maktabatul Madinah that you open, usually at the front you'll find this dua. And a beautiful Quranic dua, Rabbi zidni ilma. O my Rabb, O Allah, bestow me with more knowledge. Rabbi zidni ilma. Try to read this once a day, or best once after every salah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ilmun nafi'a, beneficial knowledge. Keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
May Allah heal you from whatever pain you are suffering from. May Allah heal you from whatever pain you are suffering from.